You set a decade-long goal. Immediately, you are hit with a tidal wave of shifting variables, cross-disciplinary requirements, and unknown dependencies. The sheer scale of the problem creates a heavy psychological weight. You freeze. This feeling isn't a deficit of intelligence, it's an encounter with the hardware limits of the human brain. The human working memory bottleneck is a hard constraint. Research in cognitive science demonstrates that the brain is physically incapable of holding countless dependencies, future branch points, and intermediate results in active recall simultaneously. Society clings to the myth of the innate genius who simply sees the answer, but valid reasoning relies on a set of invariant rules. Thoughts must maintain logical coherence and rely on compositionality, the systematic building of complex ideas from simple, verified components. To bypass these biological limits, we have to engage an executive control system. Metacognition, the practice of thinking about your thinking. This is the foundation of the ODR loop: observe, decompose, act, and reflect. Intelligence without structure is merely chaos. To conquer complexity, we must step outside our biology and systematically engineer our thoughts. The engine begins with the observe phase, specifically the first principles method. This requires stripping a problem down to its undeniable foundational truths before you ever attempt to build a solution. This deconstructive approach is the shared cognitive architecture of history's most precise thinkers, rooted in ancient philosophy. It is the same foundational reasoning used to break down the laws of theoretical physics, and it is the process that strips the assumptions from modern engineering and economics. Building a latticework of these verified principles across multiple disciplines forms the basis for worldly wisdom and long-horizon investment strategy. Once the truth is isolated, you enter the decompose phase. This relies on the MECE principle. You carve the overwhelming whole into subtasks that are mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. Because of the memory bottleneck, you must externalize it. By mapping the dependencies, linking what happens next, you identify the critical bottlenecks, the points of maximum friction you must attack first. By deconstructing the problem and mapping it outside the mind, an insurmountable universe is transformed into a manageable architecture. Next comes action and reflection. A plan is a hypothesis, not a promise. The moment you execute, reality will deviate from your expectations. Waiting for a final outcome to see if a project succeeded guarantees failure. You have to continuously evaluate intermediate results at every step, catching structural errors while they are still small. This requires the CART framework: construct, act, reason, and track. If a subtask takes longer than expected, or a hypothesis fails, the reasoner evaluates the friction, and the tracker allows you to resume from a stable point. This constant evaluation enables high-effort adaptive reasoning. You dynamically adjust your cognitive energy, reserving intense, multi-path exploration strictly for the most difficult, high-uncertainty problems. Effective reasoners suppress unnecessary analysis on simple tasks. They conserve their cognitive resources so they are fully armed when they hit a true bottleneck. Reasoning is the act of building an engine capable of continuously updating its trajectory when reality punches back. Sustaining this level of autonomous work across years carries a heavy psychological toll. To protect against this, you implement a failure budget. For every critical task, you pre-write 3 backup strategies before you begin. When the primary plan breaks, you do not spiral. Because the alternatives were planned in advance, the breakdown is processed as mere operational data rather than an identity crisis. With the structure of the loop managing the chaos of execution, the mind is free to move toward cross-domain reasoning. This is the act of synthesizing insights from physics, economics, and psychology to generate solutions that single-discipline thinkers cannot see. Running the ODR loop hourly is the purest form of metacognitive control. It allows for sustained autonomy without the need for external validation. The final principle of the adaptive mind is to plan in ink, but think in pencil. The framework must be rigid enough to act upon, but the mind flexible enough to erase it entirely when the environment changes. Infinite complexity does not exist. It is merely a collection of simple things systematically glued together. The mind that masters this loop conquers the chaos.